But in the floods, our house did got washed away, bits of houses, and all people died. My brother went under the water and my sister got him. Even if the flood didn't start to happen, I still was scared. Because every time I look at water, I get really scared.
It's knocked us right back in. And my wife gave us a big cry next morning when where we lived, and the tree and the animal was, destroyed.
Not being able to get out to my family during the floods. Yeah, it was a bit harrowing, but I got through it, and it was interesting to see how high the water actually came.
Creative Recovery Pilot Project is an initiative of the Australian Council for the Arts, Arts Queensland and 3 local governments, working with 4 arts organisations to roll out a series of projects across the state to explore this question: what role does creativity play in community recovery after a natural disaster?
So when people are doing their disaster recovery plans at the national, state, regional and then local levels, that arts and culture would find that, would be incorporated in them.
I found with Cyclone Larry, somebody approached me and had to push me to actually write, this was a journalist, putting together a book about, experience of the cyclone. I didn't want to do it at first, and then I finally did it, and I found it so cathartic. It really brought that emotion out, and you dealt with it, it was on paper, and you could move on.
I was a bit unsure whether to open. I sort of asked the other shops. Within that afternoon, that few hours of the afternoon, I had people coming in, and I sold 3 guitars that day. And so it just shows me that people, they had no power, they had no television, they had nothing to do, and so let's go get a guitar and let's have a jam and play music.
The Arts Centre's just been equipped with solar power, and we've realised that in a cyclone, people often lose power for quite long periods of time, and that the Arts Centre itself might be able to be a bit of a hub in the next disaster.
Probably the largest challenge for the Creative Recovery Pilot Project is that there is so many industries and sectors, government agencies, humanitarian organisations involved in recovery, that the arts are a virtually non-existent player at that table.
I think there's a key role for artists in recovery and in building resilience, but I think there's also a but in there as well, and it needs to be in the most appropriate way.
That in recovery, people kind of close in and start to protect each other, then to come in as an outsider is even that, it's a little bit more difficult. It's a more vulnerable place from both sides.
I saw it as a challenge, and that's what it has been, I guess. I'm not a counsellor, so I thought I was going to have to be doing a lot of counselling. A big concern of mine was that having to dive around the topic that we're here to talk about, because I thought there was a lot of stress, but the kids seem to be dealing with it pretty well.
And maybe a lot of the adults or people higher up, say, don't actually realise how much young people are affected. We started with the term, what is resilience?
Resilience is, standing up for what you believe in, even in times of doubt.
You think huge, you think strong, you're going to be strong.
Keep going, get up, keep going, no matter how much you kicked in the guts.
You just got to think like you're awesome, man. Think like Batman.
We wrote down on pieces of paper what we thought resilience meant. So compiling lines of poetry or just lines of thought, which we thought would look good, projected on buildings around the top of town. And this is for the Ipswich Festival.
It's like an arts expo where you can vote on what art project you want to participate in, but you get to try before you buy.
Yeah, we voted for the felting because we're both into sewing and
making stuff.
Yeah, fibre.
Now, did you get a ball to register?
Yeah, it's in there.
Excellent.
Nature goes through and destroys everything. What comes through is new growth, and like that's a creative force. So it's kind of in people I've seen in the town of Ipswich, where it's my new village, this kind of creative resourcefulness.
I really wanted to join a choir in Mission Beach, but there was no choir. And there's lots of people who would like to sing. And so through the Cathari Coast Council and Arts Recovery Corps, got grants together, got the backing to provide the money to train choir leaders. So hopefully out of this we may get 1, 2, 3, 4 choirs going, I don't know. We've got to wait and see. There's a young girl who I took along, and her partner picked her up afterwards, and he said, "What are you so happy about?" And she said, "You know, have you been drinking?" She said, "No, I've been singing," you know, and it is, you know, it's this joyful expression of life, God, whatever, you know. It is strengthening the community bonds because it's networking. You feel good, and you spread that joy around a little bit, you know, and that's great.
Find a space to work in, and you've got 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Be creative.
So by the end of today, students will have the options to continue or not. And if they want to continue, then we'll be doing a 6-week series of workshops in Laidley and in Ipswich.
And using visual arts, theatre, some dance, which we're not too good at, interpretive stuff.
Yeah. So this session, for this next hour and a half, that's what we're kind of going to be thinking about, is random acts of kindness and how we...
Is that what we're going to be doing?
Yeah, how we can be in charge of the way that we make other people feel.
I enjoyed making the necklace and the card because it actually made me feel happy about for my mum because she's confined to a wheelchair. It's about a girl that is at a chemist, and she does a lot for my brother and Shane and my mum. She's very nice, and we have talks and stuff, and I decided to make a card for her because she's such a nice lady.
Okay, Splashing About in the Catchment is a project where we've partnered with the Environmental Officer of the Lockyer Valley Regional Council. And it's come about in response to a lot of conversations we've had where there's been issues with young children responding with fear around changing weather since the floods.
So basically what we're doing is we're talking about water in our local area, in our local catchment, and that's what we'll do. You and I will do that together. And then with Daryl, you're going to create a story about water and how it's moving through your local catchment and how important it is and who it might meet on the way. And then you're going to transform that story into an animation film with Clay this afternoon.
You ready, sound person? Okay, it's quiet in the studio, please. You know, you think, here are kids who've been traumatised, here are kids who've been through a big event, but get into a story, get into that space where they're being creative, and that just goes. It's one of the nice things about this creative process is that they now start relating the creek to something creative. It's because they're helping to create the story and tell the story, it gives them an element of being in charge. And I think that's empowering. I think that's part of healing.
Are we going to change the thing what we said?
What would you like to change it to, darling?
Like wind sound, like a wind.
You know what? Why don't you do the wind sound while everyone else is going? Because that would be lovely if we had a whoosh. Can you make a movement to go with that? Whoosh.
So the Tree of Happiness project was to try and address the issue or the gap of support and services that has been identified locally but also in terms of international research around the 0 to 6 year old children. Because they don't attend school, because they're not of an age where people are generally engaging with them, they're often forgotten in service and response. We worked with 2 local childcare centres in the Lockie Valley. A local artist came into the 2 childcare centres and worked with the young people to create a sculpture, and the sculpture was around what was their understanding of happiness.
I think it is a very important way to connect with the children, and I would hope with this project that hopefully parents take this away also with them, that they can actually do something creative with the children in times of difficulty, like those floods.
It was good to actually have that opportunity to talk to them about things like that, instigating the conversation rather than waiting for them to bring it to us.
The experiences that we see out of this project are really encouraging. In this particular case, dealing with children, this is yet another side of their lives which can be improved, and they can be supported, and they can help to move ahead in what is a very difficult time.
To get over the fact Yasi come and go, so the only way you can express yourself is making stuff like this. Yeah, for me anyway.
Yeah, I did some work as well, some photography work. I could just see that Deb had such an enthusiasm and great eye for photography. I thought it'd be great to do a project with her.
The best outcome of all of this is just putting it all together and seeing it all displayed right in front of you. Yeah, it's the first for me.
And different stories from the elders saying that sometimes the cyclone's good to go through because it's just the natural process. It reveals what was always there, so it gives people another chance to look at things.
All the photos that we got here pretty much tell the story of each and every individual that we photographed. Claude is the chairman of the, you'd know, he's the chairman of Gerrigan. Of Gerrigan, of the Gerrigan Aboriginal Corporation. Yeah. So that's his country. So that's his country, like part of his country, the lagoon.
Tell you what, Gerrigan on top of the, it's got a shining light with all these artists around, and probably we might make it a little bit more with dancing and make it a little bit shining light more brighter,
My writing project was for basically young mums to create a children's book from their photos of their children, and it could be creative or it could be actually based on like actual events. Some of her photos were down on the beach with all the trees down after Cyclone Yasi, and with her story idea that came out of it, she turned it from a negative experience of looking at all these trees are all down, how sad we've lost so much, to a little boy running around exploring and actually finding it really fun, and just, it's a new environment, it's positive. So we've had a session of about four different sessions, and the idea is how to self-publish online and put these photos into book form and have a book for your kids at the end of it.
The Come Together program phase 1 was a 15-week pilot program, and it was aimed at bringing the community together after a disaster and providing workshops, sessions and an informal setting for people to come and meet each other, maybe learn a new skill. It was also aimed at empowering artists in the area to get back to their craft and be facilitators, and I ran 29 sessions with 280 participants attending.
Yeah, the National Creative Recovery Forum was held in Gatton, which is one of the larger towns of the Lockie Valley, and we had representation from almost all of the states and territories of Australia. We've managed to sort of frame a strategy which we will work together towards that will have a national perspective that can be applied at a very local level with local community members and artists in their own community.
So I think I need to digest and see how we can incorporate some of the learnings in the work that we're doing in Western Australia.
I just think it's an essential thing to do, and you see it all over Australia in different ways, you know.
So there's a whole form of network here which can build a stronger foundation for communities in order to feel not only well connected but well supported. And I suppose that's what resilience is.
Oh, it's gone really well. I don't think we've made a mistake really. It's like a team, and it's really, really great to learn.
Yeah. I think one of my favourite moments was when we asked everyone to come forward and write on the wall.
Yes.
At first everyone hung back and there was just heaps of people in a big line. But then it's like it kind of beckoned and kept going, and then everyone came in a wave. It was like in Braveheart when everyone comes pouring down the hill.
It really allowed me to reflect on what had happened in the flood, how bad it became, but then again afterwards how good it was that people all came together. Really still communities are coming together to still help people that were affected by the floods even now, over a year later.
I believe that the role of creativity in disaster management is that it opens up a new way of viewing a process of engagement with community.
And or a different tool that they could use to talk about their journey.
I think getting people together.
And that's like our strength and our unity.
You can be creative and be yourself.
Unlock emotions, I guess, is one of the big things.
Art always soothes the soul.
When the talking wasn't enough.
Talking about a topic in a different way and working through emotions.
Think a little bit outside the box, to just think a little bit away from their own lives.
Maybe figure out who they are again. It allows the community to celebrate what we do have.
Sometimes, even in the worst situations, there is joy.
Really channel that, that vibe and that energy and that want to do more for the community, really.
But it gives people an outlet and it makes people feel good.
I'm very passionate about providing people opportunities to do that.
It was a very ambitious project in a very short period of time with a limited number of resources, and it's been from the sheer passion, dedication and commitment from everybody who's worked on the project that we've been able to achieve together what we've achieved.
The biggest challenge for me is to create some bridges for the communities that we've been working with into more ongoing support and infrastructure and organisations and relationships which will continue the work that we've been trialling.
So this project has helped me link together with other fellow artists, fellow writers as well, and I'm at our Mission Arts Centre here that's pretty new. I'm also made some connections with them to do workshops in the future.
That's what's great about a project like this. It sparks the possibility and okay, we did that, it was a success, let's make it even better next time.
I think that the fact that now we know the arts, culture and creativity have a huge role to play in a community's recovery means that in the future we will be able to have a place at the table of broader recovery.